Hey Dirt Magicians, in this video we are going to be answering questions like:
how tight should you attach the clips for tomatoes for staking them? I have these little bumps at the base of my tomato stems. Is this something I should be worried about?
We ran a teaching garden with Ashton for brand new vegetable gardeners and wrote down all of their questions that they had about growing tomatoes. Now, they were a bit camera shy, so Dee is going to be our beginner gardener and ask those questions for us.
How tall should your stake or cage be for indeterminate tomatoes?
First, let me specify what an indeterminate tomato is. This is our vining tomato. The way I remember it is that it has an undetermined amount it can grow. So the longer the growing season, the taller it can get. For us here in the Pacific Northwest, but it's usually around 6 feet tall. And then in greenhouses I've worked in, I've seen them up to 8 feet tall. So if you live in more southern climates, it can get even taller. So when we're talking about looking for cages and stakes or trellises, we want it to be a minimum of 6 feet tall. All right, next question, Dee.
I have these little bumps at the base of my tomato stems. Is this something I should be worried about?
No need to worry. These are what are called adventitious roots, which is a fancy way of saying early root development. So were you to bury the stem of those plants with those little bumps, that would just turn into real roots. And this doesn't happen on every tomato. It's a combination of the type of variety where you get these bumps and also the environmental conditions. Also, Dirt Magicians, if I haven't answered your question by the end of this video, be sure to put it in the comments and I will happily answer it. On to the next question, Dee.
I have these tiny holes on the leaves of my tomatoes. Is that a disease?
So this is actually not a disease, but it's a pest called flea beetle, which leaves these little shotgun-like holes into the tomato plants. It's usually only really an issue when the tomato plants are small. Once they've reached a few feet tall, you can actually just cut off those lower leaves and the flea beetle will not really be able to jump as it's coming from the soil onto the higher leaves. The second strategy is to plant companion plants such as sweet alyssum and forget-me-nots, which attract the beneficial predatory insects of the flea beetle, like lacewing larvae, parasitic wasps, and big-eyed bugs. And then the third strategy is to just move the placement of your tomatoes in a different garden bed the following year. Flea beetles overwinter in the soil, so if the tomatoes are not there when they wake up, they're less likely to be able to find the new location of the tomatoes. If you want to learn more about vegetable pest and disease management, then we have a mini course for you. In this mini course, we'll help you identify common pests and diseases, as well as how to go about monitoring and some ecological control methods as well. So if you want more information, check the link in the description box below. Okay, Dee, on to our fourth question.
How tight should you attach the clips for tomatoes for staking them?
Great question. So as the tomato grows, the stem is actually going to get thicker and thicker. So we need to make sure that whatever string or tomato clip you're using is a bit loose to allow space for the tomato stem to grow out. If we do it too tight, we can actually girdle the stem, which means that it'll cut into the stem itself. And of course, we want to leave space for the like button if you're gaining value from this video. All right, on to our fifth question.
This is my favorite question because I relate to it so much. I have these green tomatoes, but they take forever to ripen. What am I doing wrong?
I get this question a lot, and there's actually more than one answer. The first short answer is you might just be impatient. So when a tomato flowers, it takes another 20 to 30 days to develop a green tomato. And then once you have those green tomatoes, it takes another 20 to 30 days for you to have a ripe tomato. So if you're going out daily and checking, you might just be driving yourself crazy thinking that it's not ripening. But there's also another long answer that has to do with environmental conditions. So tomatoes have lycopene and carotene, which are the pigments of the tomatoes, but also antioxidants. And this is what gives the tomatoes their color. And these are best produced between 20 and 24 degrees Celsius or 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you start exceeding temperatures of 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit, these pigments actually struggle to be produced at those temperatures. This is why in more southern places like California, you'll see shade cloth over the tomato plants. And then conversely, in the fall, when the temperatures start to be around 10 to 15 degrees Celsius or 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, it starts to get too cold for those pigments to be produced. So in both cases, it's better to pull the tomatoes off a little bit earlier and allow them to ripen inside. That was a fun one to answer. All right, on to our final question.
Sometimes my tomatoes taste really mushy. What did I do wrong?
Yeah, this is a hilarious question to answer because the answer, like a lot of gardening question, is it depends. So mushy tomatoes, which are also known as mealy, are a result of either under or overwatering. I know, helpful, right? Two very different extremes. So the best recommendation I can give with a YouTube video, because I'm not there with your soil, is to assess your own soil and ask yourself a few questions. Does your soil always feel really wet? Have you had a cooler summer? In that case, it's likely an overwatering issue. On the other hand, has it been a really hot summer and has your soil felt really dry? So asking yourself these different questions will help you determine whether or not you've been under or over watering. And Dirt Magicians, if you want more tips and tricks on growing tomatoes, then check out the video that we made all about my favorite tips and tricks for growing tomatoes. As an urban farmer, I have made a lot of mistakes over the years, and this video is all about the lessons that I've learned to grow healthy tomatoes. So check it out here, and we'll see you next time.